Ethan's childhood sweetheart ran me over with her car. That day, I went to the ICU, and he went to the police station. Ethan spent the entire night with his tearful childhood sweetheart. When he finally remembered to see me in the hospital, his first words were, "Can you sign the letter of understanding? It was just an accident. Celine didn't mean it." He also said, "Be careful." He was so scared at the time. "I'm a bad brother. I didn't stay with him. Grace, you're always so kind." I turned to look at the crimson sunset outside the hospital window. During the squeezing of the clouds, the world is just one giant rookie station. Ji-Yunsha frowned. "What?" The moment I looked away, some people turned out to be big deals. He didn't know that in this car accident, my brain was damaged. And my emotional center was severely damaged. I lost part of my memory, and my temperament changed drastically. From then on, I was no longer the love-obsessed person who loved him for 8 years. Now I am Shin, a super fun-loving personality. Ethan was stunned. "God, how can you say that?" Sorry. I waved my hands repeatedly. "My home isn't in Notre Dame. I'm not good at communicating with the Virgin Mary." Ethan's face was a mixture of bewilderment and anger. But I still hadn't shut up. Having a fiancé and yet selflessly caring for a single little sister, sacrificing yourself to keep her company at night. If you don't love angels, then it's you. Don't make Celine and I sound so bad. He turned red with anger. "Not the Virgin Mary. My serious analysis is correct. You're just being generous with other people's property. That's just pure evil. Stand up, Yunsha," I quickly greeted. "Why are you being so polite? You're not as good as a mistress. You really don't know how to handle things." I sighed. "Visiting a patient who just came out of the ICU, and you wouldn't even bring a fruit basket." Ethan looked at me and sneered, as expected. "Are you worthy?" "Why isn't he worthy?" Director G, "You must be too busy to remember, but you and Grace were supposed to have your wedding this month." A crisp voice came from the door of the ward. I turned my head and saw my cousin Mandy pushing a wheelchair in. "Grace, Dr. Gao wants you to go to the EEG room for a checkup." He walked past Ethan, glanced at him. "You should leave quickly. We can't afford to have you here." EEG room. Jin Yunsha glanced at me. "Grace, it seems like your brain was damaged." Yes, I pointed at him. "Although I'm the one with the damaged brain, you're the one with amnesia. Don't you remember who the culprit was?" Ethan was stunned for a moment, his face showing 2 parts embarrassment and 3 parts guilt. He seemed to want to take my hand. "Grace, Mandy interrupted him with a sneer. "How could he not remember? Unfortunately, she's his precious little lover. You two are bullying Grace like this even before you're married. You're truly heartless and a match made in heaven." Ethan's face gradually lost its composure. He hurriedly stood up and said to me coldly, "Considering your injuries, I won't say much. You must sign the letter of understanding, or I won't pay the bill." He looked at Mandy in the ICU. "The costs these days have been high. Xiaoman, you were so angry you couldn't speak." Ethan gave me a look that said, "Reflect on yourself," and strode away. See how powerful this Ethan is. He already knows how to use money to threaten people. I pointed at his back and said, "Xiaoyona, she is not wealthy, and she is a married woman. It's not like the cause of accident, family is all dead, or that the rule of law no longer exists." Xiaoman looked at Ethan's back, then looked at me, sighed, and said, "Let's go for the examination first. Muscle strength and sensation are fine. The spinal cord is slightly damaged, but the recovery is good. It's a miracle," Dr. Gao exclaimed. "Do you remember what you looked like after the crash? But you should be able to get out of bed and walk around tomorrow." I remember being hit into the air, doing a Thomas 720-degree spin 3 times, and then landing head first in the flower bed. I replied seriously, "You should forget about it." Dr. Gao lowered his head to write the medical report. "How is Grace's brain injury?" Xiaoman asked worriedly. Dr. Gao supported his cheek with one hand, looking at the electroencephalogram and pondering. "It's not normal, but watching him speak and act, he's no different from a normal person. Grace is very different from before," Xiaoman said anxiously. "Before, he was a gentle and weak person, completely controlled by her fiancé. But now I look at him with anticipation. Now, Grace is much more awake. But I always feel like he's a bit too lively." Xiaoman's voice got lower and lower as she spoke. "Sometimes I even feel like he's completely become another person." Okay, Dr. Gao listened attentively. "This may be a personality change caused by brain damage, or it may be a psychological self-defense mechanism after encountering a major blow. What's the extent of the injuries?" Xiaoman asked worriedly. Dr. Gao will have to sue the perpetrator later, and I've classified his injuries as minor, level 1. Dr. Gao typed on the keyboard, although when the ambulance brought him here, I thought he would definitely have major injuries, but he recovered extraordinarily well. The nerve damage is almost negligible, but his scalp damage and lacerations have reached the standard for minor injuries. "How do you feel yourself?" He turned to me, and I felt pretty good. I sat in the wheelchair, swinging my legs, and I felt like I could get out and dance the most dazzling little apple right then and there. I opened my mouth and started singing, "You are my little YA, Xiaoman quickly covered my mouth, but Dr. Gao actually continued humming the tune. "Not bad, quite active thinking." He continued to ask me, "Xiaoman says your personality has changed. What do you think?" I didn't really feel anything. I told him the truth. I still remember most of the things before the car accident, but I just remember them. It's as if I watched another person's life from an outsider's perspective, just like binge watching a drama. So now I feel like I'm the female lead in a tragic romance. My face gradually twisted into a grimace. "Dr. Gao, are you the devoted male supporting character assigned to me by the system?" Xiaoman and Dr. Gao looked at me in surprise, then looked at each other simultaneously and shook their heads. "Let's send her to the psychiatric department." Dr. Gao prescribed me a referral form. "There's no escaping paranoia now. Actually, I genuinely feel this way, after an 8-year-long love marathon. Others would spoil their girlfriends like princesses, but Ethan would spoil me like a heroine in a tragic romance novel. Looking back at my experiences over the years, I think I could at least be appointed as the dean of a women's virtue academy." I remember Ethan going abroad for further studies, leaving me all alone, waiting for him for a full 3 years. I remember that before he went abroad, I discovered the ambiguous chat logs between him and his childhood playmate Celine, but I chose to forgive him. I remember that after returning to China, he told me that he wanted to start a private hospital. I gave up my job as a designer and worked tirelessly as his assistant, not wanting any position or shares. I remember that I worked so hard to start the genetics hospital with him. But it was Celine who stood by his side to attend the ribbon cutting and opening ceremony. I remember Ethan's net worth skyrocketing, but the internet was flooded with rumors about him and Celine. Even though we were already engaged, I remember that at this time, mutual classmates reminded me that Ethan and Celine had attended the same school countless times while abroad, and the total could be written on 63 pages. The PDF was hardworking, dutiful, and obedient. Except for not sending him money to raise a son, I was almost like the heroine of a Qing dynasty drama. But what was the return? It was blatant and public cheating. It was the embarrassing situation of being equally talented, and even almost being killed by a third party in a car accident didn't deserve a bit of his priority consideration. Besides the empty promise of this fiancé, I got nothing. I mourned these 8 years with the scumbag in my heart, and couldn't help but sigh, Grace, Grace. How could you be so stupid? I wonder if my first half of life was cursed. With so many good men in the world, I only had eyes for a rotten vegetable like Ethan. This car accident actually knocked my love brain away, which has to be said to be a blessing in disguise. He is so infatuated with Celine. Then let them be a loving couple and fly away together. I won't interfere, but Celine's compensation still needs to be collected. So much has already been lost over the years. If I don't make a good profit, I can't swallow this resentment. Do you know I was telling dark jokes to the doctor at the mental health clinic? Dr. Qin Shi Huang is the best live streamer because the books he liked all became hits, and everyone jumped on the bandwagon. Doctor, 3 parts forbearance. 3 parts wanting to laugh, 4 parts merit. Doctor, do you know the difference between Jesus and his image is considering cognitive distortions caused by brain damage? The doctor typed away at the medical records. In short, he is not mentally ill, He has a problem with his brain. Xiaoman asked cautiously, isn't having a problem with your brain a mental illness? Severe cognitive distortions can be considered a mental illness, but he hasn't reached that point. The doctor replied without hesitation, rest well and observe for now, and also, watch fewer of your brother's jokes. On the way back to the ward, Xiaoman seemed to want to say something but hesitated. I asked her what she wanted to say. Xiaoman finally couldn't help but ask, Grace, what you said to Dr. Gao, is it true? Is it true that I am the abused female lead who traveled through time and needs to kick scumbags, punch mistresses, and then reach the peak of my life with the affectionate male second lead? I whistled and said, don't talk nonsense, my dear aching Buddha. I know you've suffered brain damage, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I've long felt that Ethan wasn't a good person. But you were so caught up in it. No matter how I tried to advise you, you wouldn't listen. If this car accident woke you up, then I think you've actually benefited from the misfortune. I really do. I smile at her. But from now on, everything is different. Now, it's a brand new Shin-ji. A brand new darkened female lead. A brand new me. Xiaoman looked at me speechlessly. She has gotten used to my crazy state these past few days. By the way, sis, why have you been the only one taking care of me these past few days? Such a big thing happened to me. Why didn't he come to see me? Xiaoman paused for a moment, looked at me, her eyes suddenly filled with sadness. Have you forgotten what happened to your family? Never mind, it's better if you've forgotten. I suddenly remembered something, and my heart skipped a beat. I touched my head and closed my mouth. Things weren't too bad. And I was very lucky to meet the discharge criteria after a month. Not bad, normal limb strength, no disability. Dr. Gao was doing tests on me while talking to Xiaoman, saying this was a very good recovery case, well taken care of by her family. The nurse took down the 4 drip with one hand and pouted at Xiaoman. Xiaoshan's sister is really good, more attentive than many accompanying parents. For a month, Ethan and my family haven't been seen at all. Xiaoman has been taking leave to take care of me, and his company can't tolerate it anymore. Last week, I saw her go to the corner to answer the phone in a low voice, and this week it seems that no calls have come in. This debt must be settled with the perpetrator. While I was in the hospital, the police came to me, and I gave them a very affirmative reply that I would not issue a letter of understanding. People from Yingjiang Group, which is also a company controlled by the Qi family, also came to me, but at that time I was seriously injured, so they left some gifts and left. I'm sure the Qi family will come again. During my rehabilitation, my boss before the car accident called to inform me that I was fired, and Mandy also started looking for a new job. The only thing she did the rest of the time was to pay the initial medical expenses. But it doesn't matter, the only use of this dogman for me now is to drop gold coins. The day before I was discharged from the hospital, Ethan welcomed the failure of my endurance competition with him. He called me and said in a tired voice, I'm very busy. Grace, can you agree to a settlement? I'm really overwhelmed right now. The hospital's business and Celine are making me unable to cope. Can you understand me? Don't talk about understanding, talk about money. I smiled as I ate a banana. Rich guy, give me 500,000 to see your strength. I could feel his silence, so I started pouring out my grievances. Ji Yunsha, I've lost my job now and am struggling financially. You need a letter of understanding to bail out your little lover. Isn't it a fair exchange for me to ask for money? Sometimes I really don't understand. Ji Yunsha. My voice was tinged with confusion. We were in a free relationship and managed to get to this point. I have to say you really are a dog. His voice seemed to carry anger again. I don't want to talk about Grace with you. You've become very unreasonable since you woke up. Incorrect answer, I said in a robotic voice. Please recognize the current situation. Only money can make people reasonable. Lots and lots of money. I decided not to argue with him. If you're with Celine, you should also know that his family is being sensible. The letter of understanding is entirely in my hands. Then I hung up the phone decisively. Capitalists are really too stingy. Ji Yunsha only gave me 100,000 yuan, which shows that he has no real strength. But with this money, I was able to settle the subsequent hospital bills, after finally being able to walk freely. I went to the police station to mediate. Unexpectedly, I met Celine. This was the first time I came face to face with him after the car accident. Celine fled after the traffic accident and was criminally detained the next day. But his family soon bailed him out, allowing him to stand in front of me now and spout nonsense. "Grace, you bitch, why aren't you dead yet?" I was surprised. "Why aren't you dead yet? Why would I die?" He was being pulled by his mother, his eyes red, as if he couldn't wait to swallow me. "If it weren't for you, Yunsha and I would be doing well." I turned around to ask the police officer, "Is she manic?" The police officer looked a little helpless. "Ms. Celine suffers from some mental illnesses and is currently out on bail for medical treatment." Celine was held tightly by her family, but she was still crying and shouting at me. "Why don't you go die? Why don't you go die?" The noblewoman, who looked like Celine's mother, frantically dragged her aside, muttering, "I shouldn't have brought you here." I spread my hands out to the police officer. "You be the judge. Can this be forgiven?" The officer coughed lightly and touched his nose a little awkwardly. "Ms. Grace, we couldn't contact your family before. We asked you to come here today to sign a letter of understanding. How much compensation can I get?" I asked her. According to the previous negotiation with Ms. Lorraine, her family will compensate you a total of 500,000 yuan for medical expenses, mental damage, and lost work expenses. If it's not enough, we can add more. The woman who looked like Celine's mother walked towards me gracefully. She was wearing a cheongsam that looked quite expensive, with willow leaf eyebrows and upturned eyes, looking very imposing. "I am Lorraine, Celine's mother." She didn't look at me directly. "I hope the settlement can be concluded today. Please state your requirements for money as soon as possible." I looked at the noble lady and asked, "You sign the letter of understanding first, and the compensation will be credited to your account later." She looked a little impatient. Okay, is that how we're playing it? Very good." I smiled politely. "I don't plan to forgive." Lorraine's beautiful eyes widened, landing on me. "You're the chairman of the Yingjiang Group, and you're offering 500,000 to his wife. Are you trying to send away a beggar?" I said confidently. "I want to ask, if I don't forgive Celine, what will happen?" I turned to the police officer. The police officer looked very troubled. "He may be prosecuted. Fleeing the scene of a traffic accident is a criminal case. Although Ms. Celine has a mental illness, it is not enough to completely escape criminal responsibility." I said, "You can ask for whatever you want in terms of money. We can discuss it at home." Lorraine glared at me, her eyes threatening. "Normally, 600,000 or 700,000 would be fine, but 10 million is outrageous. Are you crazy?" Lorraine's meticulously made-up features began to crumble. "Have you looked at yourself? How dare you speak to me like that?" I frowned. Can't the wife of the Yingjiang Group's chairman come up with 10 million? I was a bit puzzled, and I was hoping to ask for even more. Lorraine seemed to have been hit where it hurt. She rushed towards me, taking 3 steps in 2, and raised her hand, actually trying to hit my face. "Is the upper class this ill-mannered?" I was shocked and immediately lay down on the ground. "Help, she's hitting people. The chairman's wife is hitting people." The perpetrator's family was calm. The young police officer quickly held back the furious Lorraine. From the embarrassed look on her face, I understood that I was the one who caused this case. But in our Tancheng, it seems that no one dares to offend the Qi family of the Yingjiang Group. Just as I was pondering the next step, someone suddenly rushed in at the door, followed by the wailing Celine. "Grace, stop it. What's wrong with you? Sign the letter of understanding first. We'll talk about our affairs later." Ethan's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at me menacingly. Celine leaned on him, tears falling like broken beads. "Yunsha, I'm so scared," as I watched them cuddling together. Some fragments of my memory slowly overlapped. There are no coincidences in life, only premeditated sins. Those were fragments that once made me wish I were dead. After Ethan returned to China, I quickly resigned and helped him start a hospital. The early days of the business were tough and difficult. Ethan was busy building relationships and buying land, and I helped him organize materials, negotiate with various real estate companies, and secure financing from various banks and institutions. At that time, Grace, who had just graduated from college, didn't even dare to speak loudly. He knew nothing about business, unlike Ethan, who had grown up with family business. He had to learn everything from scratch. But for Ethan's sake, he was willing to endure these hardships. Several families are from medical backgrounds. Ethan's great-grandmother, Ji Ying, was a renowned gynecological expert during the Republic of China period. However, the Ji family founded a pharmaceutical company, which is now primarily controlled by Ethan's grandfather, who has two sons, Ethan's uncle and father. Unsurprisingly, Ethan's uncle will inherit the majority of the shares. In the foreseeable future, Ethan, unable to participate in the family business, has set his sights on a private hospital. Ethan told me that his father and uncle were very supportive of his plan. He said that his uncle's children were good-for-nothings, and if he could achieve something, he would definitely be valued by the elders. I don't care about inheriting the family property. Percent Grace. He was once so full of youthful spirit and extraordinary ambition. A truly capable person should create their own career. This was Ethan's ideal. For his ideal, I was willing to dedicate my future. I got up early and worked late every day, reading documents and soliciting business, and finally helped Ethan acquire the land and build the building. As my business skills became more and more proficient, I even negotiated a low-price decoration deal, got the hospital involved, and saved a large budget. I wearily and joyfully called Jin Yunsha, wanting to tell him the good news, but the phone was answered by a soft-voiced girl. "Hello," her tone lilting upward. "Yunshigij is drunk, and I'm taking care of him." In an instant, I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave. A woman's sixth sense is sometimes that frightening. I knew from her voice that she was that Xiao Xin, that so-called younger sister. "Grace, elder sister, don't overthink it." He chuckled softly. "As his girlfriend, how come you didn't take good care of him? You should be thanking me." The phone hung up, and I stood there dumbfounded for a few seconds. I saw a photo sent to my phone, showing Jin Yunsha slumped on the hotel sofa, embraced by a girl with a bright smile. He raised his phone for a selfie, revealing a provocative smile. That was the first time I saw Celine. Later, Ethan came home, swearing that there was nothing between them. He said he had been drinking at a social event and was not conscious. Sometimes he said that Yingjiang Group was Changhua's largest medical device company, and the hospital wanted to cooperate with the group, so I couldn't offend them. Other times he said that our elders and Celine's parents were close, and I couldn't go against the wishes of the elders. She was just a young girl who didn't know any better, and I shouldn't bother with her. I silently went about doing my housework and then said okay. Later I learned that Celine's feelings for him were well known. Only Ethan was pretending to be oblivious. I think he probably didn't like Celine at one time. She was too spoiled and willful, not the sensible girl that Ethan liked. But this was the thinking of the student Ethan. Only by entering society and experiencing the trials and tribulations of starting a business could he realize the benefits of power. Celine was the little princess who was worthy of him, while I, a Cinderella, was not worthy of a prince with great ambitions. I increasingly discovered clues, whether it was the perfume on his coat after socializing or the faint lipstick marks on his collar, all indicating an irreparable rift beginning to form between us. He said it was just socializing, that doing business inevitably involves these things. As the hospital gradually took shape, he came home less and less often. And when he was home, he spent more and more time typing on his phone, a vague, ambiguous smile on his face. He said it was all work-related, and that I shouldn't overthink it. The old Grace was a complete fool. He would smile and say, "Don't overthink it," and then bottle everything up inside until the day she could no longer bear it. That day was the opening ceremony of the hospital. Ethan, as the founder and first president, and Celine, the representative of the investor, Yingjiang Group, attended together. Before the ribbon-cutting ceremony, they stood side by side, facing the media's cameras. They looked like a perfect couple. Ethan's face radiated success, and Celine's smile was as radiant as a flower. Meanwhile, I, who had recently become engaged to Ethan, stood in a deserted corner, feeling like a complete joke. That's how they were nestled together back then. It turned out that they had always stood together. whether at the peak of their successful careers or in the depths of their downfall when they were imprisoned, and I was always the superfluous one. Okay, any more reminiscing and it'll be disrespectful to my blood pressure. Memories dissipated like smoke in my mind. Before me stood two people, one exhausted and the other in tears. I'm relieved to have met you, a man who can't understand what I'm saying, I said to Ethan, and then turned to the police. I said I don't forgive him, that's enough. Right, I won't sign the letter of forgiveness. When Judge Ge entered, he grabbed me, saying, "You've changed, how have you become so unreasonable?" I took a deep breath and silently recited, "Take care of my mammary glands, starting with me. When problems arise, don't internally drain myself, but externally drain others." So I slapped Ethan on the back of the head, the crisp sound echoing in the mediation room. Ethan was stunned in place, and I shouted at him with heartfelt grief, "You've changed. Ethan, I told you long ago that I don't forgive you. How can you be so unreasonable?" Celine was also stunned for a moment, and then lunged at me. "How could you hit Brother Yunsha?" And I prepared to fall to the ground. I was thinking in my head, should I pick up the BMW or the Mercedes tomorrow? Just as she was about to pull me down, a clean and sharp angry shout suddenly rang out at the police station door. The grimacing Celine suddenly trembled and shrank to the side. I wasn't prepared and almost fell to the ground, but Ethan swiftly caught me. I looked at him with some surprise, but the man at the door had already walked in. He walked straight up to me, bowed slightly. "Miss Shin, my sister was ignorant and made a big mistake. I sincerely apologize to you." She stood up, and I looked at him, noticing a man in a suit and leather shoes, with a proper face but a thin jaw, and a pair of peaceful yet sharp eyes in his deep-set eye sockets, for some reason. He looked familiar to me. Ethan supported me, his voice a little flustered. "Chiming, I wonder if I could ask Miss Shin to talk somewhere else." He looked directly at me, his tone very polite, but revealing a hint of pressure that made it hard to refuse. I thought for a moment, pushed Ethan away, and said, "Okay, no problem." Ethan grabbed me. "It's nothing. This is between my girlfriend and me. I will persuade him to understand." Qin Mingzhuang raised her eyelids and glanced at him. "Are you a member of the perpetrator's family?" Ethan became more flustered. "Unfortunately, you and my sister have nothing to do with each other." Her tone was flat, but with some sharpness. "I am a member of the perpetrator's family. Whether or not to forgive is a matter for me and Miss Shin to discuss." "Zhuang, what business is it of yours?" Lorraine's exasperated voice rang out. "Oh, it's Aunt Han." Adrian turned his head, seemingly only then noticing that Lorraine's father was already very unhappy about the trouble his little sister had caused. "It would be fine if you could handle it well today, but clearly you can't." He turned to me. "Miss Shin, please come with me." I was about to follow when Ethan grabbed me again. He said urgently in a low voice, "Grace, don't go with him. He's from the Chi family. Don't stop me, unless you can pay me the compensation." I pulled his hand down. "Grace, listen to me." He tried stiffly to grab me again, saying both "don't make trouble" and "listen to me." "Ji Yunsha, do you think I'm your lapdog?" I shook him off. "I'm going to vent my anger for the abused female lead today. From the moment you left me to be with Celine, we have no relationship anymore. Do you hear me? You're nothing, still standing here directing me. You embarrassing thing. Get out of my way." He looked at me in astonishment. I breathed a sigh of relief, and then turned and strode away. Qin Mingzhuang asked me to talk at a high-end coffee shop. We overlooked the city from the 64th floor private room of the Nanju building, drinking Helena coffee. I looked up to size up the wealthy young man in front of me. Qi Mingzhuang, now one of the directors of Yingjiang Group, is also the well-known successor of the Qi family. The Qi family patriarch has 3 children in total, but Adrian was born to the least favored second wife. This second master used to be a nobody, but a few years ago, he was suddenly promoted directly to the board of directors. At the same time, the former Crown Prince Mason was suddenly removed from the position of heir by Master Qi for unknown reasons. In this way, this master's strength should not be underestimated. But why do I always feel like I've seen him before? First of all, I must apologize to you again, Miss Grace. He lowered his head, his words sincere. Celine is not well disciplined and has a stubborn personality. As her brother, I have an unshirkable responsibility. I tasted the coffee, very bitter. You are easier to talk to than them, Mr. Chi, he said calmly. What do you mean by that? You are reasonable and don't shirk responsibility. I put down the coffee, at least in the 2 months since the car accident. You are the only one who has said the word apology to me. He smiled apologetically. Jiomai is really too ignorant. Besides, she is not a person with full capacity for civil conduct. She has some mental problems. Oh, she's crazy. But it doesn't matter. I'll be even crazier. I'll let him see it in a while. I nodded. I understand, Mr. Chi also hopes that I will sign a letter of understanding. Right, yes. His voice was still apologetic. In any case, Celine is my sister. My father's daughter. If she goes to jail, Yingjiang will be affected no matter what. I am a businessman, and I have to avoid things that damage the company's image as much as possible. I don't know what Miss Shin's compensation demands are, Mr. Chi. You are a director of the Yingjiang Group. I weighed my words. Preparing to ask for a high price, he looked a little surprised. That's right, I want shares. I took a sip of coffee and looked at Adrian, almost spilling the coffee. He smelled it. Looked at me. Shares, that's right, shares, I said with a smile. To be honest, this car accident cost me my fiancé and my job. I'm really short on money. Yingjiang Group isn't wholly owned by the Chi family, and there must be other shareholders. Mr. Chi, why don't you let a little bit slip through your fingers? I'll take the meal ticket and leave, and never get involved in anything else. My calculations are crystal clear. Yingjiang Group is thriving. And even if you give me a fraction of a percentage point of the shares, the annual dividends would be enough to keep me fed and clothed for the rest of my life. If he's not willing to budge, it's also feasible for me to take the opportunity to ask for more compensation. In short, Celine wronged me first. Now that I've finally managed to grab onto this golden goose, don't even think about getting rid of me for anything less than $1 million. Adrian lowered his head and thought for a long time. After a while, he suddenly looked up at me fixedly. Grace, is this what you want? I was a little freaked out by his stare. President Chi, don't get me wrong, I'm an easy person to talk to. If you find it difficult, you can convert the shares into cash and give them to me directly. That's impossible. But I have another way. His gaze shifted, slowly turning to the decorative vase on the table. Let's hear it. I was puzzled and looked at him suspiciously. But I saw Qiming pull out the roses from the vase with lightning speed and suddenly held them up in front of me. Grace, marry me. I have roses. A passing waiter. What's going on? Even the controlling CEO has gone insane. Xiao Man, don't say you don't believe me. I really am the heroine of a tragic romance. The kind who's about to turn dark and give the male second lead a crushing comeuppance. I chattered endlessly into the phone, and the devoted second male lead isn't you, old classmate, Dr. Gao is Ethan's prospective brother-in-law, the heir and senior director of Yingjiang Group, Adrian. The more I talked, the more excited I got, twisting like a worm on the bed. Look at this setup. It's a textbook Mary Sue novel. The male lead has secretly loved the heroine for ages, watching over her silently, until finally she's dumped by the jerk, and she resolves to protect him at all costs. What are you saying? Grace, calm down, Mandy yelled on the other end of the line. Sis. I swear I'm not lying. Just now, that golden boy you heard me talk about proposed to me. I gasped desperately for air, nearly choking myself. And get this. What did I even say yes to? Who proposed to you? What are you even talking about? The receiver spilled out Mandy's frantic questions. She said she'd known me since childhood and had already noticed me long before. He'd always resisted dynastic marriage and rejected every marriage arrangement his dad set up for him. But when he saw me, suddenly he wanted nothing more than to make me his wife. I was utterly giddy. Oh my God, my own OTP is amazing. Just moments ago, in the cafe, I held roses, perfectly made up, and locked eyes with him for a full 3 minutes. Do you know me, Mr. Chi? I gazed at him with deep emotion. Or rather, do you know me? I've known you ever since we were 8, I said. Back then, you awkwardly locked eyes with me, determined and sincere. At the first investment conference in Yingjiang for Jinhong that year, President Shin, next to you and me, our smiles froze. Jinhong Media is a newly emerging media giant in Tancheng. But few people know that the founder of Jinhong, James, is my father, 8 years old. That was when I hadn't been abandoned by the Shin family. I know some things have happened in your family over the years, and you just had a car accident, so you don't remember many things. Qin Mingzhuang stared at the roses. His tone still that of a steady, presidential figure. But I hope you believe me this once. I now have the ability to decide my own marriage, and I need you to stand by my side. Don't you want shares? Marry me, and then my shares will be your marital common property. No prenuptial agreement signed. I blurt out a few words. No need to entangle too much with marrying me. If you consider divorce, it won't be that easy. He still stared at the roses. His tone as cold as if he were discussing business, but his earlobes began to turn red, and he looked stern. Maybe I know what kind of person you are better than you do now, President Xi. Maybe you know the former Grace, but thanks to your sister, the current me is quite different from before, I gently reminded him. Maybe you can feel it, but I believe a person's essence doesn't change that easily. Qi Mingzhuang's tone still carried an undeniable sense of oppression. But his earlobes were getting redder and redder. You need money, and I need you to be a good wife. That's how Qi married me. I can't say anything else, but you will definitely have a lot of money that you want. These words moved me, and in a moment of impulse, I took the roses and said, okay, I agree. Qi Mingzhuang was stunned for a moment, and then seemed to breathe a sigh of relief as he withdrew his hand. Okay, thank you me. What are you thanking me for? I'll arrange the rest of the things. He quickly got up, as if fleeing. Miss Shin, I'll contact you again. Goodbye. Hey, do you know my contact information? I was completely puzzled. I knew he left those words and fled as if he were running away, forgetting the whole incident. That's how I finished speaking, gasping for breath. I thought he was an overbearing CEO, but it turned out he was even crazier than me. You wouldn't believe that after he left, I stood there in a daze, watching the surrounding waiters go wild with gossip. Their faces were more animated than a shadow puppet show. And do you know how much 2 cups of St. Helena coffee cost? 560. What on earth are you doing? Grace, I haven't even found a job yet, and you're already flirting with a new man, Xiao Man roared on the other end of the phone. It's not my fault. A capitalist proposed to me, Sister Ari. Who can resist him? Just standing there is like a mountain of gold, sparkling and shimmering. Sigh, I know, he might not actually marry me, but being a fiancé for a while won't hurt, and Grandpa can get a lot out of it too. Okay, Sister Ari. Someone's going to call me in a moment. I'll switch over to answer it. The voice from the daytime came through the receiver, still calm and deep. And the content was still outrageous and explosive. I am Adrian. Are you ready? Grace, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning to get our marriage certificate. The news circles of Tancheng have exploded. The Crown Prince of Yingjiang, the #1 golden bachelor of Tancheng, is suddenly getting married. No dating. No betrothal gifts. None of the mother-in-law from hell drama that everyone loves to see. Just a lightning-speed marriage certificate with the victim of the Yingjiang princess's car accident. I sit in my 500 square meter penthouse, scrolling through my phone. Look, everyone's gone crazy spreading rumors about a mysterious heiress returning from overseas to remarry. And the Qi family's orthopedic surgeon's rumored childhood sweetheart being no match for a newcomer. Qi Mingzhuang calmly directs his assistants to bring furniture into the house. I don't have a childhood sweetheart, but according to various rumors, there are hundreds of heiresses who have been engaged to you since childhood. I held up the news to his face, pointing out the various entertainment articles that were speculating about the Crown Prince's love life, along with all sorts of photoshopped images of various Miss Lees, Princess Jews, and Miss Mars. You can tell everyone's been having a great time gossiping about it all these years. And the most popular couple is Stella, the little princess of Jinhong Media. I gently took a breath, feeling a slight stinging sensation where I had been hit. That's right, Stella is my father's youngest daughter, my half-sister. I haven't seen them for many years. As for family, Stella, you know, she's much younger than me. Qin Mingzhuang gave a wry smile. I don't know if I misheard, but there was a hint of caution in his tone. Besides, over the years, I've only been interested in you. Little Zwua is so sweet-tongued. My old face blushed. Thank you, CEO Chi. I love you too, but enough about that. I didn't expect Adrian to be so easily flustered. His face is already red to the roots of his ears, now that the old man and my stepmother know that I'm married. I'll have to go back and let them meet her. Naturally. I'm in the same boat as you now. I'm counting the balance in my account, so happy I can't close my mouth. Although I haven't received any training from wealthy families, I've at least accompanied Ethan in starting a business. If you need me for anything, even climbing mountains of knives or plunging into seas of fire, just name it. I looked at the call from Agent G on my phone, and my smile gradually disappeared. Adrian reached out to me, needing me to tell him, No, President Chi, I can handle this small matter. I nodded obsequiously and answered the phone. What's going on with the Senga news? Ethan's suppressed roar came from the other end. No manners. Miss, you should call me sister-in-law. I put on airs. What nonsense are you spouting? You really married Adrian. Absolutely genuine. No returns accepted for children or the elderly. Anything else you want to ask? I could hear Jinyunsha's heavy breathing on the other end, completely stunned. Senga, you're crazy. Do you know what you're saying? Qin Mingzhuang is a director of Jiang Corporation, the future heir. Don't you even look at yourself. What are you even? So noisy. I walked around the spacious living room with my phone in hand and went to the kitchen, then threw the phone into the stew pot and covered it. I banged the lid with a soup ladle. When I opened the lid, the other person had already hung up. I winked at the dumbfounded Qi Mingzhuang and said, Hubby, let's go. Hello everyone. This is CEO Chi and his darling wife, and he is driver Shin and his kept man. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have imagined that the precious Master Chi couldn't drive, so I had to drive his McLaren for him. As I steered the wheel, I felt like a liberated serf singing. Grace must be thinking, even I couldn't help but laugh out loud today. Adrian was texting in the passenger seat, and when he heard me laugh, he turned to look at me. We made eye contact, and I saw him smile. Why so happy? How could I not be happy after hooking up with a sugar daddy? I said gleefully, it's rare to see Adrian with an expression. As long as you're happy, I feel like I haven't made a mistake. I was taken aback. What kind of relationship do we have, Mr. Chi? Could it be that I'm really some hidden Big Shot's White Moonlight? In the second half of the novel, the abused heroine is about to take off, and Chi Ming pretends to be a bit embarrassed. Just understand it as the kind of relationship that's love at first sight. As soon as he finished speaking, a black Mercedes suddenly swerved out from the side, cutting across our path. I was startled and slammed on the brakes. Luckily, it didn't snap our seatbelts. The door of the unlicensed car opened, and I saw an angry Ethan get out. He was dressed in a suit and tie, seemingly on his way to a meeting. But he was clearly furious, his tie askew. Grace, get down here, he roared at me. Ma Dig-yun was too busy braking. Wang, I'll kill you. I was super pissed, and yanked off my seatbelt. What kind of immoral thing are you? How did you learn the traffic rules? Qi Mingzhuang got up to stop me. Grace, I'll go, don't worry, he can't do anything to me. I was furious, I'm just afraid you'll kill him. The news will report another case of the Qi family's newspaper head angrily killing her ex-boyfriend on the street. Her famous voice is still steady, which embarrasses me, in this moment. Adrian has already gotten out of the car, and Ethan can't help but be stunned. Grace is driving. This is his car, and it has already been transferred to his name. Adrian said coldly, Mr. G, do you have anything to say to that person? Ethan laughed in anger. Grace is my fiancée. Who the hell is she to you? If your brain isn't working, go see a neurologist, and don't bark like a dog on the street. I was so angry that I opened the car window and yelled outside, Oh, really? Qi Mingzhuang said calmly, then I wonder what Mr. G's attitude is towards my younger sister. This stumped Ethan, and his face was both angry and embarrassed. Be careful, she's my sister. I'm sorry, Celine, it's just that I, her brother, don't have you. Qi Mingzhuang slightly tugged at the corner of his mouth. Mr. G, If he finds out about what we're doing today, there will definitely be a ruckus, if my sister's condition worsens because of this girl. How will my father and Aunt Han react? I'm not saying this lightly. Speaking of Ethan's sore spot, his arrogance subsided a lot, but he was still very unwilling. Adrian, are you that desperate for a wife? Do you even know what kind of woman you married? What kind of woman am I? Let me tell you. You are a rotten cabbage leaf who has been cheating for 8 years. What right do you have to talk about others here? I'm furious because you were driving recklessly, and I almost lost my life. Who do you think you are? Black and white impermanence. I know Grace better than you do. Adrian frowned slightly. As for you, you probably want to go to the detention center and keep Celine company. Unfortunately, someone is willing to bail her out. I wonder if any family would be willing to help you out. Ethan's face panicked, but he saw the traffic police rushing over. The leader nodded to Adrian and asked, President Chi, are you all right? I'm fine. Thanks for your hard work, Team Leader Lee. Adrian said, then got back in the car and said to me, let's go. I watched the traffic police pin Ethan against the car window, gave Ethan the middle finger, and drove away in reverse. I didn't expect that the Chi family would throw a party to welcome me today. Not only were all the Chi family members present, but also the upper class of Tancheng, with each lady, young master, and young lady dressed to the nines, arriving at this villa in the city center, dressed as I am. A new bride in jeans and a trench coat. I don't know where to put my hands. Wow, there are so many people here. I look around, trendy and flamboyant attire, and offer an awkward but polite smile. Adrian's hand at his side is trembling. I'm wondering what's wrong when I hear him mutter to himself. They clearly said it was a private tea party. You. He notices my gaze and seems to force himself to turn and look at me with concern. They didn't tell me beforehand, sister-in-law. If you don't like it, don't force yourself. Let's go back. I'm stunned for a moment, as if distant memories suddenly fly over and rush into my mind. When I was little, James used to take me to various high society gatherings, but I don't know what was wrong with me. I would get short of breath and couldn't move whenever I was in such occasions. James was very disappointed in me for this reason and turned to nurturing Stella, the doll-like, noble and lovely daughter of his second wife. Even after growing up, this problem of mine didn't completely disappear. Ethan has complained about me more than once, and even forbade me from appearing with him in public, which also made me, his fiancée, invisible in front of the media. But now that I've been run over by a car, I seem to have awakened a lot of different talents, like, for example, social confidence. Standing directly in front of us, Han Lan, dressed in a gown, stood sideways, her slender, white-gloved hand gently stroked the back of the Chi family's patriarch. Her eyes were wickedly sharp, as if she had cut us with a glance. Then, as if giving an order, a gorgeously dressed woman beside her rushed towards Adrian with a look of surprise. A public display. I heard a clear, bright female voice, and saw the beautiful lady holding champagne, trotting lightly but still gracefully. I examined her, wondering if she was one of Adrian's rumored fiancés. But I had been out of touch with high society for too long and couldn't remember who she was. Ming Zhuang, long time no see. She greeted him with a booming voice, sounding more like a soprano than a lady of wealth. The last time I saw you was on the golden beaches of the Maldives. I remember how much you loved the beach cocktails there. I wonder if you'd like to go again this summer. I originally wanted to watch the show, but Qin Mingzhuang's complexion was unusually poor tonight, which made me worry about his condition. If the big boss is unhappy, I, as a subordinate, should be more perceptive. I looked at the girl with a smile and said, he's not going. The pretty girl looked a little embarrassed. I was asking Mingzhuang, but he replied with silence. I still smiled, but he ignored me. Turning to Qi Ming with a brilliant smile, Mingzhuang, this outfit I'm wearing is the new haute couture from the spring runway show. You once said I looked good in this style. What do you think? Me, it looks good, pretty lady. Can I borrow it? I grabbed her, eyes shining. How about I wash it clean and return it to you after I wear it? The lady looked offended. Borrow and wash? What are you talking about? Good things should be shared. That's what they taught us in kindergarten. I grabbed him and wouldn't let go. Girl, what's wrong with you helping me out today since I'm dressed so casually? "How can you be like this?" He looked terrified, and when he looked up, he saw Adrian staring indifferently at Lorraine, and he ran away in fright. "I don't know him." Chi Mingzhuang looked particularly bad. This was Lorraine trying to smear me, and I went again, acting out her expression. Stepmothers aren't always bad, but in wealthy families, there are many conflicts of interest, and stepmothers are mostly like this. Just like I was kicked out of the house, thanks to James's second wife, Chi Mingzhuang has always been calm and collected, acting like a domineering CEO. But today, Chi Mingzhuang was like a silent kettle, seething underneath. "Let's go see your dad and stepmother," I asked. "Today is my mother's death anniversary." Chi Mingzhuang's hand clenched into a fist, veins popping out. Even if they have always ignored him, they cannot do that today. I was stunned for a moment. So that's what it was. For the Chi family to continue hosting this banquet is no different from popping champagne on Chi Mingzhuang's mother's grave. Who could tolerate that? I have been enduring it all along. I know that you can't fight City Hall. I try to be a good son and a good subordinate, but I patted him on the shoulder and advised him, "Forbearance only makes you angrier, and taking a step back takes you to the bottom of the sea. Everyone should be responsible for their blood pressure, and besides, forbearance isn't necessarily useful." Suddenly, a sharp pain like a needle pricked my forehead. I covered my head and bent over, and a memory from many years ago suddenly surfaced. Forbearance is indeed useless. I endured it when I was a child. And then what? Wasn't I still kicked out of the Shin family by that old fart James? My parents' marriage was a mistake. James and his media group were rising stars when he met my mother on a blind date before he started his business. They married and had me. If James had been an ordinary man, perhaps they could have lived together respectfully for a lifetime. However, he started his business and things took off. James had money, and he was surrounded by all sorts of more beautiful and capable women. Then came the suspicions, arguments, and fights. My childhood was spent in chaos until James decided my mother was no longer useful and plotted to divorce her. My mother didn't get a penny of the property and lost custody of me. Without a chance to see the world, she developed breast cancer in anger and depression and passed away. I lost my mother's love at a young age and grew up in the cold environment of the Shin family. James habitually ignores me, yet expects me to suddenly become talented and become the child he desires to have. I can't make irises bloom in the desert. A child who lacks love will become timid, fearful, and cowardly. Grace wasn't gifted. He was dull and introverted, which greatly disappointed James. Naturally, he turned his attention to Stella. Stella was a beloved little princess, growing up in the thriving world of Jinhong media, deeply cherished, clever, and bright. As for me, I was kicked off to a boarding school in my teens, only able to return to the Shin family during holidays throughout the year. My relationship with Stella was neither good nor bad, and my relationship with James was neither bad nor good. This life of complete indifference continued until I graduated from high school. James arranged for me to have a business marriage, sugarcoating it as going abroad with a young master to cultivate feelings. But in reality, it was to follow behind him as a nanny, humbly waiting to graduate, get married, and become a full-time uterus. But if I had listened to her, Grace, I would have become another abused female lead. Grace rebelled against her father for the first time, said a few harsh words, and then received a loud slap, and was ordered to pack her things and get out of the house. This is the process of me being kicked out of the Shin family. Family affection is such a thing, absurd and laughable. The 18-year-old Grace walked out of the house in a mess and was cut off from financial resources ever since. Fortunately, Grace's biological mother's side had an uncle, and this relative saved Grace's life. Later, the uncle and aunt passed away, and Grace and her cousin Mandy have supported each other like sisters ever since. I closed my eyes. If it weren't for losing her mother at a young age, Grace wouldn't have developed such a meek temperament. If it weren't for her inferiority complex and lack of love, she wouldn't have wasted 8 years on a scumbag, being repeatedly betrayed and taken advantage of, never daring to think of leaving him. From the very beginning, Grace's life was completely ruined by so-called relatives. Adrian and I looked at each other. I knew it. Grace, your mother. I took a light breath. Don't say it. you've remembered everything. Qi Mingzhuang pulled me to a corner of the banquet and handed me a glass of water. I said long ago, Grace, we are the same kind of people. I felt a strange feeling, looking at his face. The anger on Adrian's face had not completely subsided. But there seemed to be a faint hint of excitement in his eyes. You and I are both people abandoned by our families. I was stunned for a moment, barely squeezing out a smile. What are you joking about, young Master Qi? When have you ever been abandoned? Just like you when I was a kid. Adrian pulled me in front of him, his right arm around my shoulders. I shifted uncomfortably, feeling a hot breath above my head. When I was little, I wasn't even as good as their dog. He pulled me a little closer in an ambiguous way and pointed to someone in the other corner of the banquet hall with his left hand. Do you see that? That's my elder brother, Qi Mingcheng. I followed his gaze and saw a man in a suit standing there, with an outstanding temperament and noble demeanor. His flamboyant aura made it seem like he was the master of this house. He was also leading another girl, who had her back to me, so I couldn't see her face. My elder brother's mother is a true heiress, and her ability is something Lorraine can't compare to. Adrian whispered in my ear that he was taken down because my father suddenly discovered he wasn't his biological son. Really? My eyes widened like saucers. My father is a habitual cheater. His relationship with his first wife wasn't pleasant, but the old man never expected he'd dare to cuckold him. Qi Ming chuckled softly, seemingly with a hint of relief. If my mother had been like this, she wouldn't have been so mentally distraught when she discovered the old man's affair with Lorraine. She died in a car accident. I was living there at the time. I didn't expect the Qi family had such a history. The old man resented my mother for dying in a car accident, considering it shameful. And he resented me along with her. Back then, Mason was still valued, and Lorraine quickly rose to power again, giving birth to Celine. I was stuck in the middle, being bullied by them in every possible way. Back then, I thought it would be better to die. His voice held a hint of relief. I looked up worriedly, only to meet his somewhat doting smile. It was then that I met you. Right around the time of James's father's scandal, I saw little you following beside him, head drooping, timid and shrinking, like a little dog. Who are you calling a dog? I glared at him, about to retort, but then I thought that at that time, I wasn't much different from a dog either, living with my tail between my legs, pitifully begging for scraps. Grace, you might not understand how I felt at the time, but for me, it was the first time I realized that I wasn't the only one living this kind of life. You felt like my real family. Like I'd found a kindred spirit. Okay, we're all dogs, right? I felt a bit uncomfortable being held by him and wanted to push him away. Qin Mingzhuang reluctantly let me go. And he still wanted to say something. But suddenly, I saw Mason's female companion in the distance turn around, and I was stunned. Wasn't that Stella? I stared blankly at the girl walking towards me gracefully. From the moment Stella was born, she was a princess. Born with anticipation and surrounded by all good wishes, just like she is now, dressed in a gown, as beautiful as a celestial maiden descending to earth. He looked at me, his eyes swirling, and said warmly, "Sister." I hummed in response, looking blankly at the man beside him. Calling me sister is too formal. Stella, I should be calling you sister-in-law. Both of their faces turned ugly at the same time. Qin Mingzhuang tightened his grip on my hand. Stella is quite a bit younger than me. Calculating her age, she should be about to graduate from university. I don't know what she means being with Qi Mingshan. Naturally, Qi Mingshan wouldn't be able to get his hands on her family's industry. But for the sake of the old man Qi's paramount face, outsiders couldn't know this secret. Him pulling in Jinghong Media is probably also to find help for himself. This is probably also James's intention. It's just that when he discovers that his eldest daughter, who was kicked out of the house and became a discarded pawn, has actually become Qi Mingzhuang's wife. Which side will this old codger bet on in the inevitable war between the brothers? Sister, it's been many years since I saw you. You've suffered these past years. Stella blinked, her eyes seeming to glisten with tears, but mostly with inquiry. You and Dad shouldn't have had such a falling out. As if I had a choice back then. I looked up and saw the guests around us gathering. I was wondering what was so interesting about these few words when I inadvertently caught a glimpse of Hanlan Zheng in the distance, her brow furrowed, sending me a cold glare. I thought to myself, this is not good. Sure enough, I heard Mason say loudly, "Sister-in-law. Although you were indiscreet back then and had a falling out with your family, Uncle Shin was just angry for a moment. There's no such thing as a lasting feud between father and daughter, now that you're newly married. Your younger sister shouldn't always be angry with your father when she comes to reconcile." I didn't expect him to say these words. Looking around, I saw that this group of socialites had indeed begun to whisper among themselves. Stella turned red-eyed at the right moment and took my hand. "Sister, it was all my fault back then. I should have persuaded you to apologize to father, who knew you had such a temper, but now that you've found a good husband, you should have let go of that man long ago. Sister, come home with me." I heard more and more people gathering around, some whispering that the new lady was actually a daughter of the Shin family, probably expelled for some scandalous behavior. How could someone like that marry into the Chi family's second son? Blinded by lust, I guess, but I don't think he's that good looking. I thought about the time I was driven out, and it was indeed related to a man. I'm afraid Stella dared to slander me because she had done her homework thoroughly. I can understand Mason doing this, but I don't understand what James gains from throwing dirt on me. Does he hate me that much, or does he understand that we can no longer be father and daughter? So he simply tears off the facade completely. I raised my hand to stop Chi-Ming, who was about to speak. When someone is wrongly accused, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-justification. But the opponent is well prepared, and it's impossible to argue it away in a short time. A good person is most afraid of being smeared with dirt, but I'm a bad person, and if I die, we'll all die together. No one will have it easy. No, it's all my fault. I opened my voice. "Stella, I know you're angry with me, but I didn't mean to hurt you when I stole your boyfriend." Stella's face changed drastically. "Back then, you were just in junior high school. What was with the early romance? And with a man in his 20s no less. I, as your sister, tried to advise and scold you, but I had no choice but to resort to this tactic. I was talking nonsense, getting more and more carried away, and as a result, you hated me like crazy." Sigh, "I understand. Wasn't it just a kid getting hung up on something? But you shouldn't have egged on our old man, our father, to kick me out. Your sister's college tuition isn't settled yet, and life is very difficult." Adrian, Chi-Ming and Stella were all dumbfounded. I looked at everyone, and they all had expressions of being stuffed with a huge piece of gossip. "Now you've seriously found a boyfriend." Sigh, "Seeing you as a talented man and beautiful woman, your sister, am very gratified. A family doesn't hold grudges overnight. Considering you personally invited me, I won't hold it against you. Invite me to your home someday, and I'll watch them with a smile." "Stella, what are you talking about?" Mason slowly turned to Stella. "What? He's talking nonsense. I'm not having a childhood romance. She's clearly my older sister." Stella's face flushed red, and she was about to cry. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have brought this up." I quickly added fuel to the fire and went to stop him. "No one knows about this except for our family, and it's not a big deal. What are you fussing about? I didn't Stella embellish my jadeware brother-in-law. Don't worry. Stella was so in love with that guy back then, but now her heart is full of you. Who doesn't have moments of foolishness when they're young? Be a man and take responsibility." I patted Mason's shoulder, watching everything dissipate. "Haven't you ever seen a young couple in a fight?" I shouted to the crowd. "The banquet is about to begin. Please take your seats." Adrian cooperated with me to shoo people away at the right time. The crowd dispersed reluctantly. In the corner, Stella and Mason were already on the verge of arguing. Chi-Ming pulled me quickly towards the door, and I chased after him, asking, "We agreed to meet your elders today, but where is your father? Why have we only seen Celine's mother?" Chi-Ming didn't turn his head. "I'm afraid he's not coming. Lorraine won't give up easily. Let's go quickly." I followed him in a hurry to the gate, but the gate suddenly burst open, and a figure rushed in. "Grace, get out here. Isn't this Ethan? It's only been a few hours. Why is he so worked up?" Chi-Ming immediately stood in front of me, blocking Ethan's view. For a moment, everyone in the banquet hall was looking towards the entrance. I looked into the distance and saw only Hanlan standing there, looking calm. I was puzzled. Ethan was taken away by the traffic police just a few hours ago, and it's impossible for him to be released so quickly, and surprisingly, he's drunk now, with the smell of alcohol on him. I don't know if he was drinking before, but if he was drinking and driving under the influence, plus dangerous driving, how could he be allowed to cause trouble here? Chi-Yunsha was still yelling. Grace, you fickle bitch, get out here. He was probably sent by Lorraine. He must have gotten the news to stop us this afternoon. Chi Mingzhuang said to me in a low voice, don't attract attention, let's go. I was about to run to the side door when I heard Stella shout loudly, Grace, do you know this person? Here we go. Speaking of the devil, Jin Yunsha, out of his mind with drunkenness, lunged at me. I glanced at the gossiping high society bastards and then at the leisurely Hanlan, deciding to make a scene. Yunsha grabbed the collar of my trench coat. Grace, you actually got married looking all respectable. How could you betray me, just because I acted like a simp for 8 years? You can't just treat me like I'm not a person. I threw off my trench coat, slid and dived under the nearest banquet table. As everyone watched in astonishment, I slid on my knees across the smooth marble floor, crawled out from under the banquet table, and flipped to my feet. Dr. Gao's rehabilitation training is really effective. I thought to myself, you're back, Ethan. Looking like you're going to commit domestic violence. Intentional assault. Chasing relentlessly. I grabbed a pastry and threw it at him, hitting him in the head with cream. Adrian caught Ji Yunsha from behind and punched him in the head. I cheered. Taking advantage of Lorraine's stunned moment, I rushed to her in a few steps, grabbed her collar, and asked, are you crazy, Auntie? He is Celine's fiancé. Do you still want your daughter to get married? The onlookers burst into an uproar. Although the news about Ethan and Celine had been circulating for a while, most people didn't really know Ethan, a small-time character, only hearing about him. Now that I've revealed his identity and made a sensational statement, adding the word fiancé, I've ignited the gossip flames in these people. What nonsense are you talking about? He is your fiancé. Lorraine struggled to break free from my grip, but I held on tight, not letting go. How could I dare to compete with Princess Celine for a man? I turned my head to look at Becky, who was pretending to be sober while holding a cocktail, when your daughter hit me with her car. Wasn't she at the police station with Celine? How did this get anything to do with me? The discussion intensified. Lorraine didn't expect me to be so persistent and was speechless with anger. Unexpectedly, Stella's voice came from inside the shoe again. Sister, is this the person who was your fiancé before? Even though you're married to young Master Chi now, you can't deny your old love. Can you? Instantly, some of the young ladies and wives who had heard rumors started pointing fingers at me, saying things like I was a gold digger, materialistic, and snobbish. I didn't even know you before I got married, but you seem to know my fiancé quite well. I laughed in anger. Why don't we ask the person involved? Miss, are you my fiancé's or Celine's? Fiancé, think carefully before you answer, or Celine might tear you apart. Adrian threw the soaked and filthy Ethan on the ground, shaking his hands in disgust. Ethan, was half conscious. But I still shuddered at the mention of Celine's name. I was being careful, and now it's all over. Aunt Han, why are you doing this to your daughter-in-law and son-in-law? If you look down on us, just say so directly. Why go to such lengths? I jumped onto the nearby table, standing on the moral high ground, pointing fingers at Lorraine. Aunt Han, if you dislike my newlywed wife so much, there's no need to pretend to invite us over. And certainly no need to make such an undignified and unmanageable scene. Adrian glared coldly at Lorraine, the anger accumulated over the entire night erupting at this moment, his eyes seemingly filled with ice. Why are you all blaming me? What does it have to do with me? Lorraine began to panic. Guards. Who let this drunk in? I jumped to Chi Mingzhuang's side, and she thoughtfully draped a windbreaker over me. We were ready to run, passing by the disheveled Ethan. I think I understand now. Lorraine not only hates me and Adrian, but also hates Ethan, who acts like a simp for Celine. He really didn't want them to get married. After all, Celine was his only daughter. Even if she loved him to death, Ethan was really not good enough for her. Not to mention this man caused his daughter to be cheated on by a mistress, leading to a bad mental state and frequent episodes. I'm afraid if Celine deliberately drove and hurt someone, and went to jail, Lorraine would blame it all on me and Ethan. But why doesn't Lorraine care that the Chi family's face is being trampled on? Adrian pulled me away anxiously, his expression indignant. I grabbed his shoulder and asked him quietly. I wanted to compensate Lorraine before, but she only gave me 500,000, and she didn't seem to be very well off. How could she do this behind your dad's back? Was it his instruction? Chi Mingzhuang had his back to me, but I could hear it. He gritted his teeth. He had already investigated you clearly. Stella must have been hired by him. I don't listen to him. I don't obey. My father has wanted to discipline me for a long time. He is a pervert, I retorted without politeness. What kind of family disciplines their son by inviting half of the upper class to grind the daughter-in-law's face into the ground? It's still his wife's death anniversary. But Qiming pretends not to speak. After walking out of the mansion, he suddenly squats down in pain, burying his head in his arms. When he was little, although he ignored me, he would occasionally hold me in his arms and bring me gifts from abroad. The day I received my acceptance letter from a prestigious university, he even said I was his pride. We are clearly father and son. And he used to be able to put on an act of fatherly love and son's filial piety. So why does he treat me like this? I gently pat his shoulder. I understand that Adrian, as an unloved child who was pushed into power, has been doing a remarkable job these years, and the anger he has suffered is definitely more than just today. The past is the past. Now he's a pervert. I coaxed him gently, telling him not to look for fatherly love in broken glass, that expired candy is harmful, and to take some blood pressure medication. Adrian chuckled and took a few deep breaths. After a while, he stood up and pulled me into his arms. I'm sorry, Grace. I can't control my emotions when I'm around you. I patted him on the back and said, let's get in the car, let's go home. Adrian and I walked side by side towards the parking lot. As we passed the entrance to the banquet hall, I saw Ethan being dragged out by the security guards like a dog. This Ethan is such a loser, I said, pointing at him and laughing. I don't know what he was thinking. He just came to make trouble after being instigated by Lorraine. How is he going to survive in high society like this? I really hope that the cold smiles of those like Chishin and also Chiming's Aunt Han have not improved over the years. This move is really a case of killing 1,000 enemies while losing 800 of your own. Suddenly, Chi Mingzhuang's phone rang. He answered it, and I could hear that it seemed to be Adrian's subordinate on the other end. Mr. Chi, there's something I need to report to you. Adrian raised an eyebrow. Grace, wait for me for a moment. I'll be waiting in the corner of the garden by the entrance to the banquet hall. Suddenly, I heard a soft cry from behind. Sister, I gasped and turned around. This little girl is really persistent. I raised my eyebrows, looking at Stella, who was inseparable from Mason tonight. Stella was probably brought here by the old man Chi, but Chi Mingshan may not be. The two of them being together is probably James's good plan. But Chi Mingshan is not willing to be eliminated, so he found Lorraine and her gang. Now he's coming to me alone. I don't know what he's up to. Sister, are you still mad at me? Stella looked at me innocently with her wet, big eyes. Come home, after all, you're still a member of the Shin family. Don't call me sister. Stella, I calmly asked if it was Lao Deng who sent you. Yes, Dad. Stella looked a little embarrassed. Sister, you are, after all, a Shin family member. And blood ties cannot be severed. I raised my eyebrows. What do you want to say? Stella smiled gently. My sister and I were being frank. The Chi family brothers were fighting, and we were getting involved. What was he doing? Only Dad's Jinhong Media was our family's business. My eyelids twitched. James wasn't even pretending anymore. He was so shameless. What does Jinhong Media have to do with me? I chuckled dryly. Dad knows you've been working at the hospital for the past few years. Sister, you're very capable, and Dad hopes you can secretly help Jinhong. Stella laughed and said, asking me to take down the White House. What a big face. I responded coldly. This is not up to you. Sister, I know you have a cousin named Mandy, who also works in the media industry. What do you want to say? I became instantly alert. Ying should have many industries under her, but not including media, Stella chuckled. MS. Ning is also a very outstanding journalist. If he wants to develop, then negotiate. Who can do without Jinghong? But if as a reporter, it is normal to have some accidents at work. I laughed, threatening me with Mandy. This touched my G-spot. Over the years, James has never cared about me. If it weren't for Mandy taking care of me, I would have died 800 times over. But I didn't expect that I, this useless person, could climb up to Adrian, and suddenly had some utility value, talking about blood relations. What family? In Stella's triumphant eyes, I smiled and said, Stella, let's talk frankly. Call me when the old man dies. I will definitely come to mourn. With that, I turned and left. I ran into Qi Mingzhuang, who had finished his errands, and I dragged him into the car in a hurry. What's wrong? Who made you angry? Qi Mingzhuang fastened his seatbelt in the passenger seat. You and my evil father. I'm very angry. These people who look like human beings, abuse their wives, ignore their children, and now they are surrounded by young wives and young children. Living a life of luxury. Is there any justice in the world? I initially intended to let everything go. The former Grace chose to swallow all the pain and forgive everyone who had hurt him. But he was so pathetic, falling head first into the muddy flowerbed like a stone, utterly disgraced. Now, even his only relative is being threatened. Why should I, a strong awakened heroine, have to endure this frustration? Now I've decided, revenge is a dish best served cold. Screw everyone else. My mental state is about the same as Celine's right now. I want to kill them all and not live this life in vain. I start the Maybach. Even if I have to go to hell afterward, I will go with my head held high. Stella has offended you again. Qin Mingzhuang looked at my expression, and I briefly relayed his words. Qin Mingzhuang smiled gently. He seemed to have returned to that gentle and refined young nobleman image. He got one thing wrong. I had already noticed the vacancy in Ingjiang's business and secretly started preparing the news industry. I thought James would have received some news, but I didn't expect him to not know. The phone call just now was a progress report. I was overjoyed. My cousin Xiaoman hasn't found a job yet. He is a very outstanding news practitioner. Can you consider his safety? Yes. By the way, should I say, the weather is getting cold, it's time to let Shins go bankrupt. Qi Mingzhuang smiled with some amusement. Thank you, that's exactly what I wanted. I tossed him into the passenger seat, floored the gas pedal, and spun the car around like a top. Teach me how to bankrupt the Shin family. I want to do it myself. Don't underestimate any eagle-like woman. I, Grace, am a proper top student. Having worked alongside Ethan in the hospital for so many years, my work experience is not just for show. Adrian personally taught me all aspects of the business. And it didn't take long for me to learn them all. To avoid the eyes and ears of his old man and Lorraine, I was assigned to be the chief secretariat of Qi Mingzhuang. This position sounds like a personal maid, but in reality, it gave me a legitimate reason to handle various confidential businesses and documents of Yingjiang, and my only boss was Qi Mingzhuang, not subject to anyone else. On my first day, I put on a Western dress, stockings, and high heels. And I felt awkward no matter how I looked at it. Qi Mingzhuang walked past me and couldn't help but chuckle. I glared at him and asked, "How did you know my size so perfectly?" Qi Mingzhuang coughed lightly, hiding his head in embarrassment. When you care about someone, you naturally pay attention to every aspect of them. The domineering CEO is really too good at this. I walked up to her desk with a smile, one hand on the desk and the other on his shoulder. Mr. Qi, since we're already here, do you want to talk about something for adults? Qin Ming pretended to be clueless, and when he met my gaze, there was a hint of panic. What topic? I moved closer to him. My breath tickled his neck, like the kind of topic between a CEO and a secretary. It's work time now. This isn't good. Let's wait until we get home tonight. Adrian's face turned red to the roots of his ears. What, isn't going home to work an adult topic? I stood up abruptly and took out a stack of documents with a serious expression. This was the logo I designed for the new media department. Please take a look, CEO Qi. I saw her lower her head in disappointment. Xiaoman's job search had been very difficult. She knew about my family's affairs and resolutely refused to work in companies under Jinghong Media. She recently found a small company, and as expected, she was harassed during her onboarding. No doubt Stella did it. Before Xiaoman could call to complain to me, Adrian made the first move with a phone call to recruit him, offering him a management position in Yijiang's new media company. It was Xiaoman's first time at our new home, and she was cautious, afraid of breaking something. Chiming, you really are my brother-in-law. No doubt about it. Sis, you can put your mind at ease. I patted my chest to reassure her. Xiaoman shook her head as if in a dream. How could such incredible wealth ever come our way? It wasn't until I showed her our marriage certificate and said it several times that she believed I had indeed married Adrian, and hadn't fallen victim to a romance scam. She held my hand, crying and laughing. Grace, you absolutely had to meet a good person, rich or poor doesn't matter, but you absolutely, positively must not suffer anymore. After crying, Xiaoman gave us a big surprise. Her business skills were even better than we imagined. In less than a few months, Juning got the hang of the business, and I sincerely admired Xiaoman. Qiming pretended Mandy was like this. President Qi, our Grace has always liked to talk nonsense since she was a child. Please don't take it to heart. And my design skills, which had been neglected for years because of Ethan, came in handy again. The new logo I designed for the media department was very well received, so Adrian entrusted me with all the logos for the new brands under his jurisdiction and set about promoting these brands. Originally, it was supposed to be assigned to Celine. At the banquet that day, Lorraine probably considered his health and didn't let her go, so I sent her the photos of Jin Yunsha making a scene in the street and making a fool of herself in the banquet hall. I heard that my new stepsister and soon-to-be brother-in-law had a big fight and then fell ill and were hospitalized. I'm not a villain, I'm just very happy to create a few small twists and turns on the smooth, universally loved life path of Celine and Ethan. Lorraine's only daughter was taken down by us, which directly infuriated her. But over the years, she hasn't been involved in Yingjiang's core business at all. She can only try to influence decisions through her husband while secretly colluding with Qi Mingshan to try to bring down Adrian. How could we not have foreseen this? Her family's elder was somewhat swayed by her, but he suffered a stroke and collapsed on the spot after being shocked by a trending news headline. It was Adrian who, through his subordinate new media company, released the news that Qi Mingcheng was not the biological son of the elder. This is a huge scandal. I smiled and opened the champagne with Adrian. My mother died in a car accident after being stimulated by the news that she was his kept mistress. Adrian smiled and clinked glasses with me. The person who screws others will be screwed eventually. I finally got a bit of revenge, thanks to Dr. Gao. I'll treat him and Sister Xiaoman to dinner later. I downed my drink. Speaking of which, Xiaoman's old classmate, my previous attending physician Dr. Gao, was a great help. As one of the most promising young doctors in the field of medicine in Tancheng, he may not have access to old Qi's medical records, but his doctoral supervisor does, so Dr. Gao, under the guise of assisting the teacher, inquired about the old man's health condition, noting the high risk of stroke and earnestly advising us, as family members, to pay close attention. We thanked Dr. Gao. When you and your sister get married, I will definitely give 200. I nodded obsequiously. Xiaoman blushed and playfully hit me, and I laughed and ran away. These two, under the pretense of accompanying me in my rehabilitation training, met every day, their relationship rapidly heating up. Thinking I didn't notice, it cost me an extra week of training. When the old man fell, Yingjiang's agency fell into the hands of the big director Adrian, while Stella and Hanlan's naming alliance were as anxious as ants on a hot pot. I took the opportunity to propose to take care of James. I want to remind you that Jinhong Media is deeply rooted in Tancheng, and you may not be able to shake his foundations. Qiming smiled at me. Grace, wouldn't you say I've done you a great favor? Yes, Mr. Qi, I nodded and bowed. Then how should you repay me? His smile was a little ambiguous. And I knelt down on one knee, clasped my fists, and said, if you don't abandon me, I'm willing to be your adopted father. Adrian, you and I are husband and wife, there's no need to be like this. Xiao Man poked her head in. What new kind of fun is this for you two? Ordinary people don't have golden fingers, but capitalists can latch onto other capitalists. I'm like a paying player who's gone from level 0 to level 999, making some things easy to do, for example, starting with various news sources. I made his old man misunderstand that the news was released by Jinhong Media. This time, everything is turned upside down. James had been trying to please the Chi family. But now he stabbed the old man Chi in the back, just as Stella was clinging to Chi Mingshan. The old man Chi immediately thought that Jinhong Media was going to rebel. I took the opportunity to buy up marketing accounts and news headlines, and for a while, rumors spread everywhere that James was dissatisfied that Stella had only clung to the titular Chi Mingshan, instead of Chi Mingzhuang, who had been rumored to be powerful, and was plotting revenge against Yingjiang. Now James was sweating profusely. Naturally, he also had some connections and found out that I was the one messing with him. This old father, who never bows his head, sent Stella over to beg for mercy. I simply told him to get lost, taking advantage of the fact that Jinhong Media was badly hurt. Adrian's Jinjiang Media officially stood up as well. The negotiated deals weren't huge, but they were still quite easy to divide up. Although it couldn't achieve a satisfying ending like Shin's bankruptcy, cutting off half of his empire was enough to thoroughly disgust James. James hated me so much his teeth itched. But at this time, the connection he had with Chi Mingshan and Lorraine didn't pay much attention to him either. In desperation, he even considered Jinsha, whom he also deeply hated me. Ethan was also stubborn, personally accepting interviews as the dean of Jiang Hospital, throwing a lot of mud at me. I almost forgot about this kid. I looked at the news, smiled at Chi Mingzhuang, and Adrian glanced at the words gold-digging Pan Jinlian in the news, frowning. Some people need a more profound lesson. James is at least a capitalist, while Ethan, this young kid, is far less impressive in comparison. The hospital is my hard work, and morally corrupt people like Jin Yunsha are not worthy of representing Jiying, not to mention that he still has a criminal record. So we took a two-pronged approach. Adrian manipulated the hospital's funds, while Xiaoman and I massively manipulated public opinion. I made public all the messes between Jin Yunsha and Celine over the years, the old news of Celine's mother's successful rise to power as the mistress, and the truth about Celine hitting me with her car, keeping it on the trending topics for days and nights. Soon after, Ethan declared bankruptcy. Actually, I didn't slander them, I just told the truth about what they had done. I looked at Mandy innocently. Alright, Grace, President Xi has already bought Jinyan Hospital and put it in your name. You should be satisfied this time. Mandy smiled and touched my hair. By the way, your father-in-law's health is also improving after treatment. You should be careful. A new, shiny wedding ring was on his ring finger, which Dr. Gao personally put on him when he proposed a few days ago. Seriously. Am I still invisible to you too? I wish you both many grandchildren and boundless happiness. I touched the scar from the car accident on my head and snorted. Adrian is taking care of old man Chi's affairs, and his health won't improve at all. Lorraine has become a public enemy, hated by everyone. And Celine is not far behind. The little princess who was once under the spotlight had the fact that she suffered from mental illness revealed. She completely went crazy, crying and running to old man Chi, saying that she wanted to kill me and Adrian. As for how she ran to old man Chi's ward where he was recuperating to go crazy, you have to ask his brother and Dr. Gao, but he didn't know that old man Chi had just learned even more infuriating news. Yingjiang is already inseparable from Qiming Manor. He has quietly taken most of the shareholders under his wing, and now more than half of the shares are in the hands of the board of directors. The only person who can reverse this situation now is the chief director, old man Chi, himself, but he can't even stand up. How can he manage the company? Very good. The news made the old woman's blood pressure soar, so old man Chi was happy and rewarded Celine with her favorite slap in the face. With this slap, not only did Celine enter the mental hospital again, but old man Chi also never got out of bed again. Of course, by doing all this, I also killed 1,000 enemies. But harmed myself by 999. Jinghong media is not to be trifled with. The news that Chi Mingzhuang's new wife is James's daughter and Ethan's ex-fiancée were reported together, giving the citizens of Tancheng a lot to gossip about for weeks. Suddenly, Celine, Jinyun, and I became the focus of public opinion. I understand James's calculation. Decent people cherish their reputation. This way, I would inevitably try to reduce the impact of public opinion and restrain my actions. But Grace is not a decent person. I fear nothing more than a peaceful world, so I added fuel to the fire, exposing all of Shinjuch's secrets and smashing James's face into the ground for a standing long jump. I think, perhaps for years to come, Grace, will be a regular guest on the entertainment pages, occasionally dug out and reheated by freelance writers. How about calling me the Tanju legend drama queen? I asked Adrian, but he just smiled at me and said I should find a place to hide. I really should hide. Stella and Ethan called my house, begging me to let them off the hook, but I hung up on them all. But calls of all kinds kept coming in an endless stream. I knew James hated me and would definitely take the opportunity to smear and retaliate, so I handed things over to Mandy, who had already become a senior executive, and then slipped away on vacation for my honeymoon. Yes, Qin Mingzhuang and I have been married for several years. We are both over 30 years old. Since we got our marriage certificate, we have been side by side, accompanying each other as comrades in arms and colleagues, without ever having a proper romance. This time, we took a vacation together to hold a wedding in the Maldives. I asked Qi Mingzhuang again the question that had always puzzled me. Why did you marry me back then? He was wearing a delicate suit, gently lifted the veil and looked at me. At that moment, our tacit understanding told me that it was love at first sight. A mutual appreciation, and a love of kindred spirits in distress. Why bother to figure out some things, just like how I miraculously reborn? Even Dr. Geo can't figure it out now. Love is an inexplicable attachment, the most gorgeous gap in this rational world. Love gives us the courage to face countless malice again. Only two people who embrace tightly can walk boldly in this black world. I saw countless colors flashing in Qi Mingzhuang's eyes. He might have a lot to say to me. But with thousands of words gathered at his lips, he only said, because I copied. I gave him the middle finger, and with a flash of silver, he slipped a pigeon egg ring onto my finger. Mrs. Shu, happy wedding. The end of the full text. Please listen to the second article next. The news that Pei-en lit a sky lantern for Liu Zhenzhen at the Treasure Pavilion spread, and the entire capital was waiting to see me make a fool of myself. After all, since I was 7 years old, I had been openly declaring that no man in the capital was as worthy of Pei-en's love as I was. From 7 to 17, we were inseparable for 10 whole years. But this time I couldn't even see him until the day before my wedding. Instead, Liu Zhenzhen came to find me. I just couldn't bear to see you suffer in the future, so I'm giving you a chance. You have someone tell him that you fell off a cliff, and I'll invite him to admire the moon. He smiled confidently, and slowly opened his mouth. He went to find water, and the other one immediately disappeared. How about it? I agreed, but I lost completely, so I burned the marriage certificate and disappeared from the capital overnight. 8 years later, I returned to the economic group, but was stopped by my aunt. Your elopement back then caused the Pei family to lose face, but he still remembers you, although young Master Pei is already married. As long as you apologize, he will grant you the status of a concubine. How about it? These days, Shengjing has been experiencing continuous heavy rain, and the ancestral home has been flooded and collapsed. I was thinking of returning to the capital to repair it and pay respects to the ancestors. But I didn't expect that the first person to come to me would be my uncle. Seeing that I flatly refused, the smile on his face stiffened, but he still didn't give up and opened his mouth. Manu, haven't you made enough trouble with your temper for 8 years? Back then, you arbitrarily broke off the engagement, causing the betrothal gifts to be returned and both families to lose face. Now Pei-en is a high-ranking official, a close confidant of the emperor, and he doesn't even hold it against you. What more could you be dissatisfied with? He even kept the marriage certificate and wedding dress that you burned back then. My aunt grabbed my sleeve, spitting excitedly, eager to rely on me to climb up to this big Buddha of the Pei family. I gently brushed her hand away, my face slightly cold. I have already said, I am already married, and even have a 7-year-old child. Even if Payan seeks to marry me as his legal wife, there is no way I will marry again. My aunt was taken aback by the coldness in my tone, and said in astonishment, "But didn't you say that you would never marry anyone other than Payan in this lifetime?" Yes, I did say that back then. At that time, I was young and only knew that if I liked someone, I should be honest. So when Payan rode horses and shot arrows, I would follow beside him, waving flags and cheering. If I played the zither and embroidered flowers, Payan would obediently stay by my side. Even if it meant sleeping for 5 whole days, from the age of 7 to 17, for 10 whole years, Payan and I walked through every inch of this sacred place together. Everyone said that if Payan ever killed someone, I would definitely be the one handing him the knife. At that time, Payan and I were not yet engaged, but we had already become a perfect match in the eyes of others. Later, when I turned 17, Payan did indeed propose marriage. When he proposed, he vowed that he would only take 1 scoop from the 3,000 weak waters. I believed him. But then, Liu Zhenjin appeared. Liu Zhenjin was different from me. She came from outside the pass and had a very passionate and flamboyant personality. She could race horses and compete with Payan in swordsmanship. And she could also drink and play dice with him. Everything I could do and couldn't do, Liu Zhenjin could do. At first, I didn't care. I felt that with my 10 years of relationship with Payan, who could surpass me? Payan still accompanied me every day, only with the addition of Liu Zhenjin. But in just 3 months, I saw Payan avoiding me and pulling Liu Zhenjin, saying with disdain, "Why would we call Li Manyu when we go for an outing? She can't hunt with me like you. And if she accidentally sprains her ankle, I'll have to coax her. In short, she is extremely boring." I never thought Payan would say such a thing. In the past, no matter what he did, he would always coax me to accompany him, always saying that if I wasn't there, he wouldn't be interested in doing anything. But now that he had Liu Zhenjin, he suddenly started to dislike me. 10 years of companionship couldn't compare to someone else's short 3 months. I didn't know how to react. And in the end, I left in silence. Later, Payan indeed did not call for me. I quietly watched him, lying without a change in expression. Saying I was going to accompany my father to suppress bandits in the mountains. I even flattered him, saying I would bring back pastries from Shufang's High for him. I responded with a smile, but a dense, uncontrollable pain spread in my heart. After that, I never sought out Payan on my own again. And Payan never sought me out either. Even the pastries he lied about bringing back for me were forgotten. The maids around me, unable to bear it, would indignantly tell me where Payan had gone to play with Liu Zhenjin the day before, and what precious items Payan had sent to Liu Zhenjin yesterday. I heard it all, and my heart felt like it was being repeatedly flayed, the pain almost numbing. Payan and Liu Zhenjin's undisguised intimacy made me a laughingstock throughout the entire Shengjing. But Payan didn't react at all until half a month later when he appeared before me as if nothing had happened. He prepared my favorite foods as usual, and naturally took my hand, saying, "Zhenjin said you were angry and asked me to coax you, but I think you're doing fine." I told her she was overthinking it. Liu Zhenjin, standing beside him, playfully glared at him and said, "I told you to come, so why are you saying so much? Are you asking for a beating?" Payan raised his hands in a gesture of surrender, his eyes and brows full of unconscious affection for Liu Zhenjin. Their unself-conscious antics made it seem like I was the outsider. I looked at my hand, which Payan had released without hesitation, and the trace of joy that had arisen in my heart because he was looking for me dissipated completely. But I still accepted his invitation. Before setting off, Liu Zhenjin suddenly said in annoyance that she forgot to ride her horse over, and she didn't want to sit in a carriage like those delicate young ladies. Payan didn't care at all, and took the initiative to pull her onto his horse, saying, "Just come with me. It's not like we haven't done this before." Liu Zhenjin took the opportunity to hug his waist and said with a smile, "But if this is the case, Miss Li won't mind, right?" Before I could answer, Payan said with a hint of disgust, "No. She never rides with me, she always takes a carriage, she is very delicate." I finally couldn't help but ask, "What if I said I minded?" Payan frowned. put Liu Zhenjin behind him, and said, "Li Manu, can you stop being unreasonable? It was Zhenjin's kind intention to invite you out for a spring outing today. I couldn't just leave her hanging, could I? It's just sharing a horse. Zhenjin is my cousin. What could possibly happen between us?" I opened my mouth. But seeing the annoyance and impatience in Payan's eyes, I felt there was nothing more to say. In the end, I still couldn't go on the spring outing with Payan, after calling me unreasonable. He left with Liu Zhenjin, and our reunion after half a month ended unhappily once again. This time, we fell into a complete Cold War. It wasn't until a few days before the wedding that Payan's personal servant found me crying, saying that Payan had disappeared. My heart skipped a beat, and I braved the heavy rain to look for him for a whole day and night. But I never expected that I would eventually find him in a brothel. When I went in, Payan was still asleep. He was lying on the brothel bed in disarray, with a sweet aphrodisiac incense burning in the burner. Liu Zhenjin was in his arms, her plump, naked shoulders exposed from her neck and back, with several ambiguous red marks on them. I stared blankly at the scene before me, my mind went blank, and a bone-chilling chill rose in my body. Payan's personal servant tremblingly stepped forward to wake Payan. He didn't seem to be fully awake yet, and subconsciously hugged Liu Zhenjin even tighter. It wasn't until he finally opened his eyes and saw me standing in front of him that the air instantly froze. Many things flashed through my mind. I thought that maybe he would panic and explain to me, or apologize to me knowing that he was wrong. But I didn't expect that after a moment of stunned silence, he just frowned and said coldly, "What are you doing here? I will be in place." A ridiculous sense of absurdity welled up in my heart. The servant was already kneeling on the ground in fright, and said with a mournful face, "Young master, you suddenly disappeared, and Miss Manu braved the heavy rain to look for you for 2 days and 2 nights. But how could you?" He hesitated, unable to say the words that followed. Payan was stunned, and then he saw my clothes and hair that were soaked by the rain. Even standing in the warm room, I was still shivering from the cold. He reacted, hurriedly picked up the clothes next to him and wanted to put them on me, and shouted angrily at the servant, "I'm just going out to play. Do I need such a big fuss? If Miss Manu gets sick, I'll hold you accountable." But I dodged his outstretched hand and closed my eyes sadly. "Payan, do you remember what you once said to me? The promises you made were so sincere back then, saying you would only take 1 scoop from the 3,000 rivers, but now you've destroyed it all so easily." Payan's hand froze in place, but he didn't explain. "Li Manu is just for fun. Do you need to act like this? I'm going to marry you in a few days, and I haven't even said I'd take a concubine. I've never broken a promise to you." I looked at him in disbelief. "Does your visit to the brothel not count? Does Liu Zhenjin not count?" Payan scratched his hair impatiently. "Then what do you want? Zhenjin doesn't care about this kind of thing. Why do you always have to be so petty?" Just yesterday, before he could finish speaking, a piercing scream suddenly rang out. Liu Zhenjin woke up at some point, wrapped herself in the blanket, and screamed, "What's going on? Payan, where are my clothes?" Payan's attention was instantly drawn to her, and he quickly turned around. In the end, I forgot how I left. I only remember slapping Payan hard, and she looked at me angrily. "Li Manu and Zhenjin said you are petty and jealous, and they were right." When I regained consciousness, I was already home, and my whole body had a high fever. The physical pain was bearable, but the pain in my heart was hard to alleviate. The high fever lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and Payan never appeared. After a severe illness, I lifted my still weak hand and personally wrote a letter of disengagement, but before I could send it to the Pei mansion, Liu Zhenjin took the lead in finding me. She made a bet with me with a confident look, as if she was sure that Payan would choose her, and the fact was just like that. I hid in another room and watched Payan enter her room and not come out all night. It wasn't until the next day that they came out. Liu Zhenjin said with a smile, "Yesterday was Qixi Festival. Do you have any other important things to find me for?" Payan turned his back to me. I couldn't see his expression. I could only hear his cold and indifferent words. "No." So even if my life was hanging by a thread, it was not as important as his night of passion with Liu Zhenjin. From then on, I was completely disheartened. I burned the marriage certificate, tore up the wedding decorations, returned the betrothal gifts, and submitted the letter of disengagement to the Pei mansion. Then, I left the holy city overnight. I didn't mean to hide it, and I looked at my stunned aunt and said, "Aunt, I am already married and have children, so no matter who sent you here today, please go back." The aunt's face was even more shocked, and she exclaimed like she had seen a ghost, "You are married, but you liked Payan so much back then. How could you be willing to marry someone else?" I smiled and said lightly, "There's nothing to be reluctant about." My aunt sighed heavily, unable to get any advantage from me. She reverted to her usual mean demeanor. "Young Master Pei, she's now a high-ranking official and deeply trusted by the emperor. You really have no luck. Giving up such a good husband and just marrying someone off, it's your parents' fault for dying so early, making you so unable to tell good from bad." I glanced at her coldly, and my aunt shrank back, hurrying away. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. In a few days, after Xiao Jing and Xiao Ning returned to offer incense to my parents, I can leave. A few days later, the door of the old house was knocked. I thought it was Xiao Jing and opened the door with a smile. But unexpectedly it was Payan. The man had lost the immaturity of his youth, but his face was still as handsome and dashing as when he coordinated the ladies at Manlu Hongxiujiao. He stared at me blankly, his eyes almost greedily scanning every inch of my body. After a long while, he croaked, "Manu, I've really waited so long for you." I was stunned for a moment, but didn't react much, just nodded calmly. "Young Master Pei, long time no see." This unfamiliar address clearly caught Payan off guard. A boundless pain surged in his eyes, and he anxiously stepped forward. "Manu, do you have to treat me like this? You left for 8 years. Do you know how sad I was? Now that you've finally come back, are you still going to waste time being angry with me?" I felt inexplicably like retreating a step, creating distance between us. I glanced at the aunt behind him, whose eyes were darting around, and said with a smile, "Young Master Pei, didn't my aunt tell you, in these 8 years, I already have a husband, and even a 7-year-old child?" Payan was thunderstruck. He looked at me in disbelief, muttering, "Impossible, absolutely impossible. Manu, who else could you marry besides me? You clearly liked me so much. How could you be willing to marry someone else? Manu, please, tell me, the husband and child you mentioned are fake. You're lying to me, right?" he pleaded with a pale face. Unsure whether he genuinely didn't believe it or was just deceiving himself. Before I could speak, my aunt interjected decisively, "Of course it's fake. If he really got married before returning to Beijing, how could he be alone? Young Master Pei, she must be lying to you, wanting you to coax her more. After all, you know how spoiled she's been since she was little," my aunt said with a flattering smile, offering an excuse that sounded forced. Payan's eyes lit up, actually believing it. "Manu, I knew you couldn't bear to leave me." I frowned, not wanting to get entangled with them, but Payan blocked the door and refused to leave no matter what. Seeing that I was silent, he stepped forward more eagerly, wanting to reach out and touch me. I dodged subconsciously, but he still caught me. "Showing off my feet on the full moon, the wedding invitations you burned, the wedding dress you tore up, and the betrothal gifts you returned, I have personally restored them all and kept them. As long as you are willing, I can." I coldly interrupted him. "I am not willing to compensate, and what makes you think that after experiencing those things, I would still like you? In your eyes, am I, Li Manu, such a contemptible person?" Payan looked consistent, "Just like this full moon night, I didn't mean that. It's just that I haven't been able to forget you for the past 8 years. Every time I wake up in the middle of the night, I hate myself for losing you. I thought you would be the same as me." Before he could finish his words, he disappeared in my next move. I took out a dagger and neatly cut off the piece of robe he was holding. "Payan, you are well read in poetry and books, you should know what cutting off the robe means. Today, that's what it means between you and me. If you still want to keep some affection for me, then don't appear in front of me again in the future. Let's go our separate ways and owe each other nothing. Go our separate ways and owe each other nothing." Payan grabbed the piece of clothing, repeating it blankly. His eyes filled with 1,000 emotions, roaring in disbelief. "How can you ask me to accept this? How can we go our separate ways and owe each other nothing? We have been together for more than 10 years. How can we clarify or get over the entanglements and wrongs within that time? Manu, I know you still resent me for not coaxing you properly in the brothel that day, and regret that I didn't choose to find you that last day, but can you give me another chance? You can hit me, scold me, but you can't abandon me like you did 8 years ago. His tone was extremely miserable, the most embarrassed and helpless I had ever seen. The youthful spirit of the past collapsed at this moment. If it were the old me, I would definitely feel sorry for him. But now I only feel a headache. I rubbed my brow and said with considerable boredom, Payan, why don't you understand? Those things are already in the past, and I don't care anymore. Just like I don't like you anymore. If you continue to pester me like this, I will only find it annoying. Payan's eyes instantly turned red. I smiled mockingly and said suddenly, besides, you chose Liu Zhenzhen first, and you later got your wish and married Liu Zhenzhen. So why are you putting on such a sad and heartbroken act in front of me now? Payan closed his eyes in pain and said with difficulty, what happened between me and Liu Zhenzhen is not what you think, Manu. There were many misunderstandings between us. Can you listen to my explanation? He looked at me with red eyes, full of expectation. I was naturally too lazy to listen and was about to leave when I heard a familiar, indifferent voice suddenly ring out, explain. What do you need to explain to my wife? At the same time, a childish voice called out happily, Mother, I'm back. Payan froze on the spot, staring at me as a look of surprise blossomed on his face, just like the smile that used to appear on my lips whenever he came to find me, but I had no time to pay attention to his thoughts. I happily lifted my skirt and hurried past him, eagerly throwing myself towards the newcomer. Xiao Jing caught me with a smile, twirled me around a few times, and kissed my forehead, his voice low and melodious. I wasn't by your side. Have you been eating and sleeping well these past few days? If you're not good, you'll have to be punished tonight. My face flushed, and I glanced at him sideways, nodding silently. Xiao Ning at my feet reached out to me, jumping up and down, and shouted. His tone quite urgent, me too, me too. A Ning wants a hug from mommy too. Daddy is so mean. He always keeps mommy to himself. His cheeks flushed. He hurriedly pushed Xiao Jing away and picked up Xiao Ning. Mommy wasn't here. Did you cause trouble for Daddy again? You're 7 years old and still so naughty. I'll throw you into Daddy's army camp to train with him, so you'll be so tired you can't even eat your favorite milk candies. Xiao Ning giggled and rubbed against my neck, saying crisply, A Ning isn't afraid. Daddy said that when I become as strong as him, I can protect mommy together. A warm current surged through my heart. I picked her up and walked towards the house, but when I turned around, I saw Payan with his eyes full of despair and my aunt with a shocked expression. I then remembered that they were still here and had seen everything, but I felt that I had nothing to say to them, so I just nodded calmly and said, Young Master Pei, Aunt. If there's nothing else, please leave. My husband and child have been separated for a long time, and we have many things to say. Your presence here is a bit of a disturbance. These words were indeed impolite. Payan's body trembled, and a look of hurt flashed in his eyes. He couldn't speak for a long while. My aunt said awkwardly, Li Manu, you actually got married and had a child. I thought you were deceiving me. She looked at Xiao Jing beside me and wanted to say something. But perhaps Xiao Jing's aura was too strong, and one could tell at a glance that he was no ordinary person. So she ultimately shrank her neck and closed her mouth. I was too lazy to pay attention and walked past them towards the house. As Xiao Jing brushed past Payan, Payan suddenly spoke with a sneer. Where did you come from? Some street ruffian doesn't deserve to be Manu's husband. I don't know what method you used to deceive Manu into marrying you. But Manu and I have been friends for over a decade, something you can't compare to. Moreover, there are many dignitaries in this capital. Perhaps you have some minor official position, but do you think you can protect Manu with just that? If you know what's good for you, you should step aside and hand Manu over to someone better. My steps faltered, and I turned to look at Payan in disbelief. His eyes burned with anger, and his gaze towards Xiao Jing was extremely fierce. I never expected him to say such shameless words. Just as I was about to speak, Xiao Jing said expressionlessly, Deceiving, Minister Pei. You are truly ridiculous. Pei'an's expression changed slightly, perhaps because he didn't expect Xiao Jing to accurately state his name and official position, making him feel inexplicably uneasy. However, he still gritted his teeth and said, "Isn't it true, Manu? She clearly should have been my wife." Xiao Jing curled the corners of his mouth. A face that was clearly aloof, yet gave off a hint of mockery. "Your wife? Then do you know what she was like when I first met Manu?" Pei'an's fingers trembled, and he vaguely realized something, but couldn't bring himself to stop him. Xiao Jing slowly said, "When I met her, she was alone and helpless. Even buying vegetables on the street, she would be bullied by the local thugs. Even when she returned home, she wouldn't dare to fall asleep at night because she was a woman living alone. She was clearly so scared, yet she refused to return to her family in the capital." Minister Pei, why do you think that is? You say she should have been your wife. Then where were you then? If you could really protect her, then how could she have been reduced to this state? Xiao Jing's words made Pei'an's face turn as white as snow. He slowly rolled his eyes, looking at me with despair and lifelessness. After a long time, he struggled to utter a few words. "Manu, I didn't know." He stumbled towards me, his voice trembling, as if he were about to die, his tone full of pain and regret. "Full moon, I truly didn't know things would turn out like this. That day, you sent a servant to find me, but I was only acting out of spite. I was angry that you didn't trust me. Angry that you made such a bet with Liu Zhenzhen to test me. That's why I went to Liu Zhenzhen's room that day. I also knew you were watching me from next door the whole time. I was deliberately trying to make you angry, and those words that day were also deliberately spoken for you to hear, but I thought we were inseparable. Yet I never expected you would actually leave me." He covered his eyes, and large drops of tears fell. I've known him for over a decade, but this was the first time I'd ever seen him cry. Yet all I felt in my heart was anger and bone-chilling coldness. So he knew all along about the bet I made with Liu Zhenzhen, yet he still stubbornly refused to come see me, even knowing that I was seriously ill because of her. He even entered Liu Zhenzhen's room in front of me to make me angry, completely disregarding how much pain it would cause me, and the only reason he gave was simply because he was acting out of spite. I took a deep breath and said coldly, "Enough, Pei'an. Let's just leave it at that. I really have nothing more to say to you." Pei'an's pupils contracted, and after a long while, he choked out, "It's my fault, Full Moon, I'm so sorry, I didn't say anything," and I turned and left, carrying the bewildered Xiao Ning. Xiao Jing followed behind me and slammed the door shut, completely isolating Pei'an, who was filled with sadness. Outside, after entering, Xiao Jing took Xiao Ning from my arms, patted my head, and said gently, "Are you okay?" I shook my head and leaned my head on his shoulder, feeling this familiar sense of security. But as Xiao Jing said, when I initially left Xingjing and went to the far north, I was indeed very embarrassed at first in an unfamiliar place. However, I am not a fool, and I quickly figured out how to protect myself. But at that time, I had not met Xiao Jing, so how would he know these things? Facing my suspicious gaze, Xiao Jing's expression remained unchanged. As if he had guessed what I was thinking, he slowly said, "Li Manu, you really don't remember anything. Back when I was still in the Holy See, you only knew how to follow behind that scoundrel Pei'an, not noticing anyone else. Later, when you came to my territory, I recognized you and stayed by your side. But you didn't recognize me. I had no choice but to take my time." I stared at him in astonishment, speechless for a long while. No wonder he seemed so familiar with me when we first met. It turned out he had been plotting this all along. I paused, then remembered how he used to swallow clothing in front of me under the guise of helping, intentionally or unintentionally flirting with and seducing me, and I couldn't help but feel my ears burning. Xiao Jing saw my expression and obviously guessed what I was thinking. He leaned close to my ear, a slight curve to his lips. "How about we send Aining to the palace tonight? That way, my dear wife can do whatever she wants to her father." I abruptly covered his mouth, feeling my face completely burning up. Xiao Ning didn't know what was happening and obediently kissed my face, saying earnestly, "Mother, don't be afraid. If anyone dares to bully you in the future, they'll have to get past Anning first. Even father is the same. If he dares to bully mother, "I'll take mother away from home." I was deeply moved and then promptly had Xiao Jing send her to the palace. A few days later, Xiao Jing and I entered the palace to attend the Dragon Boat Festival family banquet. This was Xiao Jing's first return to the capital since being granted his fiefdom. Everyone's curious gazes fell upon us, especially focusing on me, the wife of Prince Jing. Soon, someone recognized my identity, and a look of astonishment appeared on their face. The eyes of the crowd shifted back and forth between me and Payan. No one had expected that after breaking off the engagement and disappearing for 8 years, I would reappear as the legitimate wife of Prince Jing. I ignored these gazes, only showing a hint of a smile when speaking with Xiao Jing beside me. As for Payan, he stared straight at me, drinking cup after cup of wine, his eyes filled with pain and regret. For a moment, the entire scene fell into an eerie silence. It was also at this moment that I saw Liu Zhenzhen, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. Her face was full of hatred as she walked straight towards me. "Didn't you say you would disappear forever? Why did you break your promise? Why did you come back?" He walked up to me, his voice extremely low, but his tone was full of resentment. I raised my eyelids and looked at him. I did lose the bet back then. But Liu Zhenzhen's bet was never fair, so why can't I come back now? Liu Zhenzhen's face twisted with anger, completely lacking the enthusiasm and flamboyance she once had. 8 years. Jing seemed to have lived as a woman filled with resentment. So what? Even if I did tell Payan about the bet first, he didn't choose you, and you should stay far away and not appear in front of us again. Payan was about to accept me, if it weren't for your sudden appearance, if it weren't for your sudden appearance. He gritted his teeth and looked at me venomously, a look of madness appearing in his eyes. My heart skipped a beat, and I warily prepared to leave, but suddenly, Liu Zhenzhen lunged at me, a flash of cold light in her hand revealing a sharp dagger, aimed straight at me. Just as it was about to strike me, a slender hand appeared before my eyes, firmly grasping the dagger, blood trickling from the palm. My face paled, and I kicked her away. Liu Zhenzhen, completely out of her mind, frantically grabbed Xiao Jing's hand. "Are you all right?" Xiao Jing smiled, holding me tightly in his arms. "It's nothing, just a small injury." His icy gaze fell upon Liu Zhenzhen, who was still cursing and berating, then turned to Payan, whose face was pale, and coldly said, "Lord Pei, control the idiot in your family." Payan already knew Xiao Jing's identity, and at this moment, he could only kneel in silence and apologize. He glanced at me with repressed concern, making sure I was not injured before speaking in a heavy voice. "It is this official's fault. This matter will not be let go." He paused, and finally uttered the title. "Consort Jing will not be wronged." I had no time to pay attention to him, calling for the imperial physician to bandage Xiao Jing's wound, and then followed him closely, fearing the wound would reopen. Payan saw all of this, his expression one of bitter disappointment and sorrow. Such an event at the Dragon Boat Festival family banquet was obviously not easy to resolve. Moreover, the emperor and Xiao Jing were brothers born of the same mother, and although born into the royal family, their bond was extremely deep. Upon hearing that I had been assassinated by Liu Zhenzhen, the emperor disregarded Payan, his loyal and beloved general, and sternly asked him how to deal with it. Payan's expression was cold, not even glancing at Liu Zhenzhen, only saying indifferently, "Disturbing Prince Jing is due to my lack of strict discipline. I am willing to request to quell the rebellion in the southwest and never return to the capital in this lifetime. As for that, Jianren Zhusho," the emperor agreed. Upon hearing that last sentence, Liu Zhenzhen, who had already lost all hope, stirred, looking at Payan and questioning him in a heart-wrenching voice. "Payan, why are you doing this to me? You were the one who hurt Li Manua's heart, and you made the choice yourself. How has it become my fault now? What's so good about Li Manu? She was with you for 10 years, but I've been married to you for 8 whole years. Why have you never been willing to look at me?" But no matter how she clamored and shouted, Payan's expression remained cold and stern, without the slightest flicker of emotion. Until the last moment when Liu Zhenzhen was being dragged away, she asked her final question. "Payan, in these 8 years of marriage, have you truly never loved me?" Only then did Payan coldly lower his eyelids, his gaze like piercing ice, and coldly uttered 2 words, Never. Liu Zhenjin was completely silenced. Not many days later, I heard that he had died in prison, and no one claimed his body, so it could only be thrown into the mass grave. After the family banquet, I took Xiao Jing and Xiao Ning to offer incense to my parents, and then prepared to return to my fief, but Payan came to see me one last time before that, in just a few days. He had become much more silent, and even a few white hairs had grown on his forehead. He looked at me deeply, as if he wanted to engrave my appearance in his mind and never forget it. Manu, after today, I'm afraid we really won't be able to see each other again. She looked at me with a smile. But her smile was very bitter. I didn't react much and said faintly, the southwest is remote and the road is rugged, so be careful. A few traces of daze flashed across Payan's face. Manu, I haven't heard you say such caring words for a long time. With these words from you, I am already satisfied. I don't need to say more. Xiao Jing and Xiao Ning in the distance were still waiting for me eagerly, so I said, I'm leaving, goodbye. With that, I turned and left, but Payan spoke again. Manu, he called me, his voice trembling slightly. What if I said that I never really liked Liu Zhenjin? I was just young and playful at that time, so I got closer to him. But he and I have indeed never met, and we have never had any physical intimacy in the 8 years of marriage. I have always been keeping the promise I made to you. My steps paused slightly, and I said calmly, it doesn't matter anymore, Payan. What you think and what you do is your own business. But it has nothing to do with me. There was no more sound from behind, and I didn't stop. I walked step by step towards Xiao Jing and Xiao Ning, who were reaching out to me. That is who I care about now, my home now. No matter how important the past friendship was, it is now as light as a feather, not to mention that it was never my fault. Payan quietly watched my back as I walked further and further away, until I completely disappeared, and then he truly shed tears. That was the person he had admired since he was a teenager. After 10 years together, they should have had a most perfect and beautiful ending, but now he could only watch me walk towards other men. And even she personally pushed me to other men. When he was young, he always thought that he and I would never be separated. After all, they had been so close for so many years that I couldn't live without him, and he couldn't live without me, so, even the most quarrels and sulking should only be temporary. But he never thought that the bond he thought was unbreakable would be so easily severed by his own hand. He had indeed never liked Liu Zhenjin, and always regarded me as his wife in his heart, but the novelty that Liu Zhenjin brought made the young him indulge in it, so from that time on, he took one wrong step after another. That day in the brothel, he wanted to explain to me that he came to the brothel out of curiosity, and because Liu Zhenjin was fanning the flames, he was momentarily confused. But he didn't visit any prostitutes, nor did he touch Liu Zhenjin, but when he looked at my questioning eyes, he suddenly became angry. Angry that I didn't believe him, angry that I actually wanted to hit him for this. That slap didn't hurt, but in the end, he still said such hurtful words to me, and what he did even more wrong was that he clearly realized that Liu Zhenjin had an unclear and inexplicable meaning to him, but he still let her follow him, even when he was gambling with me. He granted Liu Zhenjin's wish to spite me. That night, he drank all night, but he was still unwilling to take a look at me, who he knew was next door. Even in the morning, he still had to be cold-hearted and deliberately say the kind of words that he knew would hurt people's hearts. So in the end, he completely lost me. Looking back now, he realizes how foolish he was at that time. Payan thinks that he has ended up in this state. He can't blame others, he can only blame himself. So he volunteered to go to the southwest to quell the rebellion, even if the price was never seeing me again. Alright? That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We'll keep updating with more exciting stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.